sweep. We're either going to go with the jet sweep and bring this kid around as an extra blocker, and the H-back knows that he has to crack on the defensive end in order to, again, allow us to get outside. Or we're going to go with what we call an H-crack, in that these guys will take a little bit wider than normal split, and he'll come in motion 2 or 3 steps, he'll call for the ball, and he will do a crack, a deliberate crack on this guy right here. And then occasionally, we'll go with an H-jet and put him in motion and let him go around, and we will sweep back to the toward the side that he came from. It's a deliberate decision, and the main reasons that I do this, first of all, is because it's the opposite of what I would normally do. I tend to be very conservative in my play calling. It's just my nature, so I rely on my assistant offensive coordinator and my receivers coach to prod me a little bit, to help me think outside the box. So we do that primarily because, you know, it's what I would not normally do. It keeps the defensive ends nervous. This kid's coming in motion. Is he going to crack me? Is he actually going to go be a lead blocker? Is he going to get the ball and run a sweep? And it also, just to piss off the opposing defensive coordinators, because now their defensive ends are wondering what's going on. He's more worried about not getting his head knocked off than he is about trying to stop the ball.
The hunters turn hunted.
I'm sorry?
I like to say we turn the hunter into the hunted.
Exactly. That's very appropriate. So many styles and so little time. The most frustrating thing about coming to this and some of the other single wing events is you see what everybody else is doing, and I just wish, God, if I just had more time, I'd love to try that. God, I wish I could do some of this or some of that. As I like to say, there's as many styles of single wing as there are grains of sand on a beach. And the wonderful thing about the community is everybody is willing to share. And you just don't find that in any other offensive style. So I was very fortunate when I found the single wing, and I've had a chance to grow personally as a coach, thanks to some of the kind contributions from some of you gentlemen and some of the guys back east. So, I'm not doing anything any different than what anybody else is doing, and probably doing a lot better than me. I continue to try to be a student of the offense and learn and convey that to my players and my assistant coaches. Thanks again for your time, Bruce. Thank you for the opportunity to let me come here and speak. Here's my contact information. We have a team website. There's my email, my home and cell phone number. Willing to trade films and have conversations anytime with anybody. So, any questions? Yes, Coach.
Kind of a 3-part question here, but all along the same vein here. Different schools of thought, going strong right all the time, flipping the line. The nose, foot-to-foot splits, the 1-foot splits, depth of the backs, get them closer so you can't see the snap, keep them deeper for spacing. So in those 3 areas, you do more of the the splits, the deeper backs, and you flip your line. Just can you kind of give me your Reader's Digest version of what you feel the benefits and the upside and downside of doing it your way versus the other way? I mean, there's trade-offs in anything, right?
Right.
So
yeah,
what was the reason that caused you to want to?
I would not to presume.
Yeah. So I'm not saying one's right or wrong,
Right.
but just in your mind, why did you decide to go with the little deeper backs? Why do you flip the line? Why did you go with the 1-foot splits?
Let's start with the backfield, because I have had them back and I've had them up. I actually started with them back for probably the first 3 or 4 years. I was pretty deep, and then I went back and reviewed some of the videos that I traded with the coach, and I noticed how close even the high school players were. And I'd say probably about 4 years ago, we decided to actually come up closer with it. I think the driving force there was the snap that we were using, especially when we went after the national symposium that was here a couple of years ago. I was talking to Doc Ward, and he was showing us the flip snap. So that kind of sealed it with us for our base T-series. We are up closer. Even now, last year we went back with the spiral snap. We're up closer for our T-series base formation, but we'll drop back an extra yard when we go into our split. The line, the foot-to-foot split, that was just because it seemed that's what the preponderance of everybody else was doing, was running foot to foot. And again, PJ came to me this last year and said, hey coach, the kids are a little bit bigger, let's give this a try with a 1 foot split. And I looked at him and I said, you know, I have immense respect for PJ, and I'm like, well coach, if you can make this work, I'll be fine with it. And the only area that we seemed to be deficient in, again, was our wedge blocking. He drilled on it, but I'm definitely going to look to see if there's something that we need to do to make that work a little bit better if we're going to continue to be in the foot-to-foot split. Certainly, I don't want to come in, a 1 foot split. I don't want to come in foot-to-foot just for wedging because it's an obvious tell. So we're going to have to learn a little bit and figure out what we can do in that motion. I'm sorry, what was your other?
Flipping the line, did you?
Flipping line? I think, if anything, that's probably just a leftover vestige from my years as a high school player more than anything else. There is one thing that I did try to learn from Gary, was making sure that we call the bulk of our plays to our line of scrimmage. You know, so if we're running, well, not the bulk of the plays, but we're definitely having our unbalance toward our play side, toward our side of the field. Excuse me. So we flip a little less than we have in years past, and that was a nice thing. That was one of the advantages that quick lead to the 2 and the 3 back gave us, is when I wanted to run out to that side, I didn't have to flip. I could run a quick lead back that side. We had a little more success in that than we did with our wing back sweeps. We ran our wing back sweeps just enough to keep the defense honest and make sure that they respect what was going on at the mesh point. But really, that was it. A little left over from high school. The line split was my offensive coordinator, line coach's idea, and we had experimented with the position of the backs and a little deeper for spread, up in our normal formation for our T-series. Yes, sir.
Coach, where are you putting your minimum play players?
That requires a 2-part answer. I'll see if I can distill it down. Usually we are working them as receivers, but you know, sometimes you got a kid who physically is not a receiver, and it's obvious. We have what we like to call our taxi squad, and that's usually 5 players, and those are kids who need a little more time to develop. And so during our special team time, you know, we'll warm up, special teams, team contact drill, then we go into our skill work. So during special teams, that 20-minute window, either myself or the defensive coordinator, we've got that group of 5 or 6 kids, and we're working them individually, tackling dummy, working on their stances, things like that to bring them up. I like to say that I will go to war with my 5 minimum players against your 5 minimum players any day of the week, because I won't be afraid to put my 5 in, because I will have done my due diligence to gain them up, to help them be where they need to be. And one of the most exciting times is, say you get into the 3rd game of the season, and suddenly, you know, you've got 5 kids over there, but suddenly little Billy's over there working with the special teams now. And the 4 who are left are kind of like, you know, he's kind of graduated, if you will. He's over here doing special teams work now. It's no big deal. Suddenly he's not with us anymore. And me and the defensive coach are still working with these individuals. And then after that, usually the rest of the group kind of bucks up, and then suddenly, you know, 2 games later, we don't have a taxi squad anymore, and I'm rotating my kids in, and they're not the best, they're most gifted kids, but they know what they're supposed to do, and they will give me everything that they have, and I understand the limits that they have physically as a player, and I don't ask them to do anything more than what they can do, but I certainly expect everything that they do have to give me, and they know that.
So you put them on defense.
I will put them, not necessarily. If I've got a slow, as far as a lineman type, yeah, I will put them in the interior, probably at a defensive tackle. Now, in our scheme, you know, when we're running an even front, you know, a 6-man front, sometimes a 5-man front, an odd front, if that guard, that defensive guard is the more critical of the two for us. So if you're playing defensive tackle, we are kind of shielding you there. Maybe you haven't got the foot speed or the hand speed to get across and do what we needed from the defensive guard position. And the kids understand that as well. So they appreciate it when they get their shot at that defensive guard spot. Again, it's not anything, I hate coaches who, you know, as Pop Warner coaches, we have our minimum plays that we have to get in. I do not enjoy watching the other sideline say, well, we have to get these kids in. And I always tell my assistants, don't do that to a kid. You know, let us not be the ones who say, we have to get him in now in front of God and everybody. We know what's going on as a staff because we're watching our plays, and we try to be as subtle as we can about it, make sure he gets in and so forth, but we won't embarrass a kid. Because I'm sitting across the sideline and I'm watching, you know, looking at the time, and when the person who's doing my plays meets with their person at midfield and said, X, Y, and Z kids have to get in right now, whether we're on offense or defense, I'm sorry, we're attacking that kid. You know, and well, it's not my fault you didn't get you weren't more successful with your rotations, getting your players in. So I try not to be that coach. I'm going to abuse his players. Anything else? Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate your time. Thank you.